like to call this February 23rd, 2026 Board of Education regular meeting to order. George, can you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Here.
Ms. Hafner?
Here.
Mr. Micko?
Here.
Mr. Wall?
Here.
Mrs. Hausum?
Here.
All present.
We all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Next on the agenda are strategic priorities. Our district has developed and is currently engaged in a 3-year strategic plan which reflects the values, beliefs, and hopes of our students, staff, parents, and community. There are 4 strategic priorities to the plan: transforming teaching and learning, aligning staff and resources, cultivating culture and climate, and leveraging funding and facilities. Our strategic priorities give actionable focus to our district's purpose and mission and guide the work of our strategic plan. Next, I'll turn it over to Dr. Ryba for recognitions.
Thank you, Ms. Hausum. We have a very special recognition tonight, and I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Green to do the honors.
Thank you. I would like to call up Emily Weir. I'll say some words about Emily here. So it's a distinct honor to recognize Emily Weir, a physical education teacher at Kinsner. If you don't know her, she was all over the news back in November when she won this award. She was named the 2025 Ohio Association for Health, Phys Ed, Recreation, and Dance, or OFERD, Young Professional of the Year for the entire state of Ohio. This prestigious state-level award honors educators who demonstrate at least 6 years of distinctive leadership and meritorious service across the categories of service, professionalism, and innovation. Emily served the district here for 10 years, and she has fundamentally shifted the philosophy and health and phys ed in our district. Her principal, who wasn't able to be here, but Lou Marconi, captures her impact perfectly, stating, "If you ever wonder where all the energy in our hallways comes from, Emily is definitely the source." Emily's known for an innovative curriculum she describes as being far from your parents' gym class. She's pioneered a district-wide roller skating unit for 3rd through 5th grade and brought the first T school golf program to all 5 of our elementary buildings. Principal Marconi notes that Emily is more than just a teacher. She's a mentor, an advocate, and occasionally a roller skating dragon, highlighting her creative flair that engages every student, from our youngest Mustangs to our seasoned athletes. Her commitment to student wellness is further evidenced by her leadership in raising $12,470 for the American Heart Association and facilitating hands-only CPR training for 650 students in 2025 alone. Beyond the gymnasium, Emily is a deeply engaged leader who serves on our district leadership team and the Elementary Facilities Committee, where she helps shape the strategic vision of the district. She's also an integral member of the Kinsner Student Success Leadership Team, where she supports the development and implementation of the Model Mustang and the zones of regulation. Again, Mr. Marconi describes her as a powerhouse of positivity and innovation, who exemplifies the spirit of this award through her service, professionalism, and authorship. I could go on, but I will wrap it up by saying her recent honors also include the T in the PTA Award for Kinsner Elementary in the spring of 2025. She has a bachelor's in health and phys ed, a master's in teacher leadership, and endorsement in adaptive physical education. She and her husband, Kevin, another one of our wonderful teachers here, who's a Strongsville Middle School health and PE teacher, are proud parents of Madison and Delaney, who are here with us tonight. Emily believes teaching phys ed is about far more than developing motor skills. It's about nurturing the whole child, physically, mentally, emotionally, and inspiring not only a lifelong love of movement, but empowering students to be the best versions of themselves, both in and out of the gym. We are so fortunate to have Emily on staff with us and influencing our young learners daily. Please join me in congratulating Emily Weir on this outstanding professional honor.
thank you, Aaron and Lou, for the kind words. And thank you, Dr. Ryba, Mrs. Pelko, and the rest of the board. I am truly flattered by the recognition that I've received from our district over the past several months since receiving this award. But what means the most to me is the support and trust that I've received over the 10 years in Strongsville from all of you. You've given me the space and the gentle nudges to take risks, be innovative, and develop lessons that foster deeper learning and empower every student. The gymnasium has become so much more than just a traditional PE space. The support and trust has allowed me to transform my gym into a carnival, golf course, skating rink, ninja training facility, the Olympics, a bowling alley, football camp, the list goes on. But built into the fun of our PE programs are life skills. From learning how to tie your shoes to CPR, we're developing emotionally intelligent students by helping them understand their own emotions and how to resolve conflicts with peers. We embrace technology by bringing in robots and modern tools into the gym while utilizing the tried and true traditional equipment. But none of this happens in isolation. I'm grateful to collaborate with classroom teachers on cross-curricular connections, work with our tech team to bring innovative ideas to life, and to partner with my PE colleagues, who are more like brothers to me, to continuously improve our practice and best to serve all of our students. I'm grateful to all of those that have had a hand in supporting our learners in the gym. And then I can't forget my family, my patient guinea pigs, who listen to my new ideas and lesson reflections and politely give me notice when I've been going on a little too long about it by saying, "Oh, we're still talking about this?" So thank you for putting up with me. But again, thank you for this recognition and for empowering me to grow as an educator who I hope reflects the excellence of our district. And I welcome all of you into my gym anytime. Thank you.
Congratulations again to Mrs. Weir. We appreciate all you do, and I might have to take you up on that invitation. I love to roller skate, so I have to dig my skates out. I might need to be wrapped in bubble wrap first. So. Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you to you and your family for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Next on the agenda, we have public comment. We do have one public comment today. Bonnie Tennis, if you want to come to the podium, state your name and address. And you have approximately 3 minutes.
It's never enough. Well, I missed the last meeting, which was on Monday, so. My name is Bonnie Tennis, live at 9407 Brushwood Lane. There are many points that I would like to make regarding the cost of the bond levy, but today I would like to concentrate only on the cost of elementary buildings. One could ask, why am I making comments now after everything is written and sealed? Well, if the numbers would be finalized a couple months before the bond levy submission, we, the residents, would have a chance to make at least 4 comments before that was done. Until the last meeting in January of 2026, the numbers were changing, ongoing discussions were carried regarding the items and the cost all the way to the end, and sometimes confusing to what, where, and when. For some residents to know that 4 elementary schools are being built is enough, but for me that's not enough. I'm not interested in general idea, I'm interested in details of the project. Cost to build 3 elementary schools since 2023 increased by $22 million, $22.2 million. 13.9 due to inflationary cost increase, and $8.3 million due to an increase of an appetite for square footage. The reason why I call it an increase in an appetite because somehow in 2023, the 91,217 square feet per new elementary school was sufficient and right-sized, and now in 2026 became inadequate. Even if the enrollment for 26 is lower than it was in 2023, and district is facing a serious deficit spending in just next 2 years. Now, last time I brought the analogy about the Honda and Lexus analogy, and I actually would like to mention that actually the OFCC Honda Civic was square footage configuration based on the enrollment projection from 2022, which was for 630 students or 631, which would be actually the 73,267 square footage. Strongsville went with 708 students, which based on OFCC would be 673,000 square feet. I understand why Strongsville went with 708 and increased the 17,000 some square feet. I understand that because we do need extra space and there is additional needed space. But I believe that 91,217 would be sufficient with some adjustments. And going to 96,500, that actually based on OFCC would service not 708 students, but 865 students. So, based on my calculations, and to gain more square footage in academic areas, the OFCC actually recommends to decrease classrooms and some of the non-academic spaces. Academic spaces refer to, core academic, specialized support spaces, special education, art, music, family, and consumer services. Space can be moved from non-academic to academic areas, but not vice versa. For all grade levels, academic spaces may be reduced by 10% to accommodate extended learning areas. Non-academic spaces are defined as areas that do not comprise the academic core of the building, such as administration spaces, media spaces, physical education areas, food service custodial spaces, and building services. Based on OFCC, OSDM, design classroom right size for elementary school grade 1 through 5 is 900 square feet, but it can be reduced by 10%, meaning by 80 square feet to allocate the space for extra art room, extra music room, special education rooms, or small group rooms. Children in classrooms are divided into groups, and many of them are taken to small group rooms, so it only makes the right to reduce by a little bit to accommodate for the group learning. Here's the answer that was given to me when I asked about the reason for the latest square footage increase. We went with 910, so we went with the middle of the road option to say we want to give some collaboration space. We want to give some ability for the kids to move around rather than just being sitting in desks and rows and more of confined space. We don't have children sitting in rows anymore. We don't even know how the education would look like in 5 to 10 years. We might have virtual classrooms, virtual teachers, virtual learning experience, different curriculum, and tests will be generated by AI. So why do we insist on investing so much money in physical space when it looks like everything will be AI-driven? And students might even sit in their homes and join virtual academy online. As one senator said, all we have to do is to teach children how to ask AI the right questions, which I don't agree with that. Going back to that extra 10%, 25 900 square foot classrooms could be reduced to 840, and that 80 square feet times 25 is 2,000 square feet, and five 1,200 classrooms can be reduced by 120 square feet, which gives 600 square feet extra. Total of 2,600 square feet could be used for other education space. This is enough for additional art room and music room, which are 1,200 square foot each, and the extra 1,200 square feet could be used for art material storage room or small group room. Total 2,600. That's $3.4 million not needed. I also noticed on the GPD floor plan that gymnasium size was 6,000 square feet. Strongsville New Elementary School is configured for 708 students. The physical education square footage for a gymnasium length is based on student enrollment. 551 to 700 students, 4,700 square feet. 701 to 1,000 students, 6,000 square feet. 6,000 is for 1,000. It could be reduced. It could be reduced by another, instead of 6,000, the gymnasium could be reduced to 5,500 or 5,400. They would gain additional 600, which that will allow that 600 square feet would allow to have a small self-contained classroom for special education. Now, that's another one I've noticed that was student dining. Allocated space was shown at 4,310 square feet. That number is figured for high school. For middle school and for elementary school should be 3,540. That would give another 590 square feet, which could be used for special ed, education sensory room, and occupational therapy room. That's total another 590 square feet that is not needed. Now, total of all, so far, without any other reduction, which could be also used in other areas, brings to total of 3,790 square feet, which you multiply by the square foot, cost per square foot, that's $5 million that would not be needed in this area of the buildings. Based on the last enrollment, the enrollment is down. I was hoping that this time Board of Education would do the right thing and keep the cost down. I was glad when the athletic field house was gone from the bond levy. It reduced the bond levy amount, but then somehow Board of Education found a way to add new things to it and increase the square footage. There are two quotes that always come to my mind when I think about this district and other district spending and decisions. The more we have, the more we want. Sometimes you have to lose the battle to win the war. We all guilty of the first one, and this district is no different, always wants more, better, bigger, and whatever it takes. But the second one is hardly ever considered. A good example was the last renewal levy. Based on the latest forecast, the deficit spending in 2027 will be over $14 million, and cash balance will be almost completely depleted in 2028. And 070 fund is being drained, used for repairs and projects that could be delayed if bond levy would pass in 2024. When it comes to the 2019 levy, renewal levy, I understand why the first option, the half levy, was not accepted, because it would not offer the stability that Board of Education thought it was needed. But the second one was reasonable. The new reduced levy with the $2.4 million windfall would still bring $9.8 million. But Board of Education did not want to give up that $2.4 million of extra money to gain voter support, which was really a bonus money, and by doing so, the levy did not pass. I strongly believe that the renewal levy would pass in November of 2024 with that $2.4 million reduction. Then in March or May of 2025, the bond levy would be put on the ballot, and without the athletic field house and the additional $20 million reduction from 07 fund, the bond levy would probably pass. This one small battle needed to be lost to win the war, and we all would be better today. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Right. Next on our agenda is approval of minutes. Motion to approve the minutes of the February 9th, 2026 work session. All audio recordings will be a permanent part of the minutes and are available upon request through the Treasurer's office. Video recordings shall be maintained based on the availability of the selected digital online platform. Next, I'll turn it over to Mr. Agnostu for the Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Hausum. I have a few items for your consideration tonight. The first being the 5-year forecast. I'll go over it in a second, but there's a link to the agenda for new board members. There's two in the general committee as a reminder, and the rest of the board members. There's two exhibits listed on in the agenda. The first one is the PDF, which is the 5-year forecast statements and assumptions. The statements, there's two statements. This is what is filed to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. These statements and the accompanying assumptions go on their website for anyone to access, and they're required to be there by the end of this month, February, and the new filing date in August. And then the two statements there, the first statement has the renewal levy, any renewal levies come off the tax revenues and they go on the bottom of the forecast, while the second statement has them included in there for an easier comparison. So I just wanted to point out what these two exhibits were, and then moving into the presentation, which kind of highlights everything that's there on the statements and the assumptions. Any questions on that before I move on? All right. So the 5-year forecast, what's its purpose and objectives? Really three things. It's to engage the local Board of Education community in the long-range planning and discussion of the financial issues facing the school district. Kind of like a roadmap of kind of where we're headed into the future financially. To serve as a basis of determining the school district's ability to sign the certificate required by Ohio Revised Code 5705 412, commonly known as the 412 certificate. This is if we have any multi-year contracts that we're able to certify that the funds will be there. And 3, to provide the method for the Department of Education and Auditor of State to identify schools with potential financial problems. And the disclosure that I always like to give, the methodology of the forecast. This forecast is prepared based upon historical trends and current factors. This information is then extrapolated into estimates for subsequent years. The forecast variables can change multiple times throughout the fiscal year, and cash flow monitoring helps identify unexpected variances. No process is guaranteed. The intent is to provide the district's financial trend over time and a roadmap for decisions aimed at encouraging financial stability and sustainability. The one thing I want to point out with that as well is this school year, with the change of the change of legislation within the budget bill that was approved by the governor, the timelines for the forecast have changed. Typically, these were the forecast is done twice during the school year. Typically, it was once done in previously it was done October. Then they moved it to November, and then the spring filing was always in May. May was to me, it was always a good time frame because of you're kind of closing out the current fiscal year. You have more of that data known, and you're getting ready, prepared for the next fiscal year. And then October was right after the school had started, and you had data to kind of move into the current school year. Within the change of legislation, this fall we had the transition year where it was moved from November to October, and the May filing is now moved to February. And then the new fall filing is in August. With that, you're kind of in the start and middle of the fiscal year, so there's going to be more changes that go on. For example, our biggest revenue source, as we'll see, is our property tax collections. We receive our tax collections 5 months out of the 12 months of the fiscal year. We receive an advance in January and February, and our settlement in March. Then again in July and August. What's tricky now is when we did the May forecast, we know what our tax revenues were. Now we're presenting the forecast this month, and then next month we'll find out what our tax revenues are. So depending on how the tax revenues come in can have an impact on the 5-year forecast. So that's something to keep an eye on, but just kind of wanted to point out with the filing timeline changes, these unintended consequences could occur, but it's just something to be aware of and monitor as we collect, and which we monitor against the financial report that I present every month. So we'll still have a pulse on it, just knowing that these can change, and when they do, there's a supplemental filing that we can always do throughout the year as well. So kind of moving in, the forecast is made up of 4 components. We have our assumptions, our revenues, our expenditures, and then the summary at the end. Our major assumptions, first moving on the revenues, our gross collection rate. The gross collection rate, what that is our collection rate. The county sends out bills. These are the percentage of bills that are then collected back from the county, plus any prior year delinquencies. So that's the gross collection rate. So in calendar years, or collection years 22, 23, 24, we were kind of around 99%. In calendar year 25, it dipped a little bit to 97.8. So the 3-year average is 98.74. Typically, that's what I forecast out as a 3-year average. However, as you'll see, it's slightly higher than that. Every year, we get our assessed valuations at the beginning of the calendar year. This year, when we got our assessed valuations, our commercial property values kind of dropped not significant, but there was a drop. And that was attributed to more of a county correcting an error that they've been carrying on the books within their system. And not just our district, it was all the districts in Cuyahoga County. So we've seen that. So the way they explained it, they were making an adjustment that they've been carrying, these beginning balances that weren't tied to anything, and they were correcting that. They weren't going out against any tax revenue, so it wouldn't change our collections, but the way the forecasted them assumed that those were going to be collected there, so that was playing against the collection rate. So I had to manually adjust the collection rate to kind of offset what the formula was saying those would be. So that's where the difference in the 3-year average to the future collection rate of 1.32 comes into play. So kind of wanted to point that out. And for reference, just in general, 1% change in collection rate represents about $500,000 in revenue. Our assessed valuations for the current calendar year 26, it's the ones highlighted in green. Since this wasn't a reappraisal year or a triennial update, our residential values somewhat stay the same. There was a slight increase. Commercial, that was the one that dropped by $20 million. That was due to it was due to two things. It was due to a combination of the adjustment by the county, and then also the Cleveland Clinic building had changed ownership. So when that happens, it goes from, it was a tax exempt building, it became exempt, and then they refiled for exemption. So it was just the timing of the process. So in 25, it came on as exempt, or taxable, and then 26, it came off as exempt. So that was part of the decrease there, and then the other part was the reduction that was made. And then the public utility, that with public utility, as that increases, that is not applied to House Bill 920, so any increase in public utility is a increase for the district. The historical average was about 6.39%. Last year, it increased by 4.92%, so the forecast assumes a 3-year average of 5.94, which is the historical average increase. And then the other thing I want to point out, so calendar year 27 is, or collection year 27 is another year where there's not much going on for reappraisal wise, but in collection year 28, which is tax year 27, it's a triennial update for the county. I have factored in a 10% increase in residential values and a 2% increase in commercial values. Where I'm getting the 10% increase in residential values is taking the average. I've been using Zillow, where they give you the average value of the home in the city. So using the point in time from the last update to forecasting out to where we're at now. So they have grown by 10%. So if that trend continues, that's where I'm getting the 10% from. But that 10% is going to be factored in against House Bill 335. The good news is we're still on the 20. We're not on the 20 mil floor. So House Bill 920 will still be in effect. So as those values go up, the rates will go down. But the inside millage, that'll be factored against the House Bill 335, where that can increase more than inflation. So right now, the inflationary factor is 8% cumulative through 2027 predicted. So that'll be a 2% delta, which would represent a $200,000 difference in inside millage. Does that make sense, or do you want to explain it a different way? I see a lot of heads nodding, so I think we're good. Okay. And then the forecast shows two things. One, in the actual years, we had the 2019 levy that we were collecting, and revenue for this year is decreasing because the second half is coming off the books. So that the May 2019 levy was a 5-year, $5.9 mil levy that has expired. In tax year 2023, collections were through 2024. And then we have one more renewal levy. The last time it was renewed was in 2021. It's a 5-year, $6 mil levy with collections that began in January 23. The levy expires tax year 2026. This tax year collections, the collection year is through 2027. The first time we can renew it on the ballot is this upcoming November of 26. And if it's not renewed by November of 27, then it's, again, that's off the books as well. And that represents about $8 million. This chart kind of mentioned it about what House Bill 920 is. As values go up, the rates go down. Where we are in relation to House Bill 920, or I'm sorry, the 20 mil floor. The top chart is our voted millage. The gray chart is our effective millage. The gold dot is the 20 mil floor. So currently, our effective rates is 25.11 mils. Tax year 28, if the if with the triennial update, if it is the 10%, then we'll be close to 23.29 mils. And then if the current renewal levy represents around 3 to 4 mils, so kind of give you an indication where that's at, but that's included in the 23.9 or 23.29. So we're kind of creeping on the 20 mil floor as values continue to increase. And then the previous two charts that I skipped over, they kind of show how House Bill 920 plays out. So on the left-hand side, as values increased, rates decreased, and then the projected with the rates increase, with the values increase in 27, there's the offset decrease in rates as well. State funding, we're being funded by the formula that was continued, fair school funding plan that was continued in the current biennium budget. We anticipate an increase, well, we did receive an increase of about $600,000 in 26, anticipate an increase of about $400,000 next school year for a cumulative increase of $1.1 million. An additional change this year was the implementation of the performance supplement to schools based on how they do on their state report card. The forecast below is projected of what we'll receive. For this school year, it's $300,000, and then the following school year is about $270 in that ballpark. And there's a lag of, so for example, the performance supplement we received for this year was for, I think, the 23-24 report card. So there's a lag on when that is implemented. The restricted revenue, we received about $527,000. It's slightly down last year. Last year had the one-time reimbursement of the science and reading stipends. But the breakdown is the success and wellness of $200,000, the career tech, the disadvantaged pupil funding of $79,000, gifted of $118,000, and then other, we did receive some carryover this year for the science and reading. What changed in the forecast between the September and February for revenues? We're actually up about $900,000 for this fiscal year. Next fiscal year is like a net of 43, and then in the out fiscal years, there's a decrease, and mainly it's because of the cap of the House Bill 335. So the big change was within state aid and other revenue. State aid was the performance supplement, didn't have that included in the September forecast. And then also, as we were reducing the mileage for transportation, I kind of made an estimate on what reduction would be in the state funding, and it came in better than my reduction. So those are the two positives. And then in other revenue, interest income decreased by $400,000. We have lower interest rates. The interest rates are % lower this year than compared to last year. And then also through January, cash balance is about $8 million less as well, so less dollars to invest were the contributing factors. And then we did receive a one-time reimbursement back from Cuyahoga County of $882,000 for unused previously collected funds through tax settlements to support the county's sexennial reappraisal process. So overall, the life of the forecast is a positive $834,000. Any questions so far? All right, expenditures. This year from last year, we reduced staffing about 12 positions in the general fund. A lot of those were the reduction of the full-time substitute positions, due as we've been budgeting for them, but they were vacant. So we're still budgeting the same amount, but as they continue to turn over, we never really fill them. So the dollars were just kind of have there. And then for next year, as I was doing the forecast, we were able to reduce 4 positions. One of those positions was a budget placeholder for this year. That was a position that we didn't end up filling at the middle school, so I was able to reduce that. And then the forecast also assumes the changes to any collective bargaining agreements. And then still the healthcare cost for next year is still early to tell what our increase may be for healthcare, but this year was 1.5%, and the forecast assumes a 6% increase in the following years, which is the average of the last 5 years. Purchase services, materials, supplies, and those I'll get into more as we go through the graphs. What changed in expenditures between the September forecast and the February forecast? This fiscal year, we're about $1.4 million down. Kind of been trending that way when I've been doing the monthly reports. We have some savings in personnel services, and also which relates to the benefits as well, due to open positions. Again, some of those sub positions that are being filled, and just as positions transition, there's openings for a period of time. So not anyone's a big amount, but they kind of all add up throughout the year, and it's about a little over 1% what that 1.4 million represents in the total budget of a little over 90 million. In the out years, 27, an increase of 600,000, then in 28, close to $2 million and outward. That was from the primarily due to the SEA contract that we ratified a few months ago, and that was netted against this time of year. We're starting to get retirees for next year, so we have a list of who those were. So I was able to factor in the net cost of their positions of what they're making versus a replacement would be. So there was a savings there about $700,000 to $800,000, and then that was also netted against January. We have our open enrollment period, so people were changing in healthcare. So we had more people come onto our plan, which kind of all those netted together to get where we are with these increases. And then purchase services and materials and supplies kind of flipped. We saw an increase in our sped placements, but in supplies, it's the bus fuel. We had budgeted $350. We're actually trending around $250. So it went down a little bit, so I was able to reduce that. And then the transfers out, that increased for $50,000. I increased the transfer to the 035 fund, which is our severance fund, which as more people are retiring, that it's kind of been creeping up a little bit. Any changes on, or any questions on those assumptions? No. All right. And then I'll kind of go over high level with the rest of them until we get to the summary. Overall, revenues total for this year, $84.1 million. Last year, we were about 86.6. The decrease is the levy coming off the books. 70% of our revenues, or 58.5, is property taxes. 17 million is state sources, which is the state foundation and the state reimbursement credits. And then all other revenue is made up in the 10% of 8.6 million. This chart kind of shows the different categories. And then the following charts, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each one. They're just there for reference, is the bar graphs for each individual line item. This is the property tax And then the orange on the out years is what it would be with the renewal levy that's still on the books. What I wanted to get to is other revenue. This chart here is more of a breakout of what other revenue represents. Interest income last year, we were about 2.3 million. This year, we're projecting about 1.8, and then reducing it the following years based on, as our cash balance is decreasing, there's less funds to invest. Other sources, the increase for this year was the county reimbursement. That's what that is. And the out years is just the end of year advances that we receive back from other funds. Expenditures, 84% of our expenditures are made up of salaries and benefits. This year, expenditures are trending about 93.9 million. Last year, they were about 89.8, which is a $4.1 million increase, or 4.5%. And 84% of our expenses are salaries and benefits, as we're a people business, and 10% is purchase services, and then 5% is supplies, capital outlay, debt, and other objects. So that's the majority of our expenses. And then again, the graphs for the individual line items. As you can see, salaries has been a consistent trend. Same with the benefits, those two kind of correlate. Purchase services, there was an increase. This year we're projecting about 1.3 million. Hopefully we'll realize some savings there. We went from 8.1 to 9.4. Part of the 1.3 million increase attributed to special education outplacements of 500,000, utilities about $100,000 increase, transportation costs that are the vans, that increase about 200,000. So that's kind of majority of the $1.3 million increase, and kind of give you a context of what those categories represent. Dollar-wise, the special education placements were about 1.8 million, utilities are about 1.8 million, transportation vans about 600,000, and then occupational therapists, physical therapists, and nurses represent about 1.8 million as well. And then CCP is also in there, the cost for that, and that's about 550,000, just for some context. Supplies and materials. Overall, that's about $2.5 million of the budget. The breakdown there, the biggest chunk is textbooks. Textbooks, you see the fluctuation year over year. Last year we had a bigger adoption. This year we were able to reduce the budget a little bit based on need. Next year, slight increase, and then in 29 and 30, putting it back to where it was based on the adoption cycles, working with Erin and her department on that cycle. And then the bus fuel was able to decrease based on the trend. Capital outlay represents only about $700,000. Most of that is in the tech department for replacement of infrastructure and tech equipment, and Chromebooks, the one-to-one technology. Our general fund debt, we have one issuance for the preschool that expires in, I think, 2036. And then our transfers and advances, we had the big one in 23 of the $25 million to the 070 fund. And then the other years are just our normal ones with transfer to food service, the 009 fund, the termination benefits fund, no longer in summer school, the field turf fund, the annual replacement, and the athletics. So kind of in summary, this graph I like because it kind of shows a side-by-side of projected revenues and expenditures. The revenues are in blue, the expenditures are in orange. So last year was 2025. Our expenditures were about $3.2 million higher than our revenues. This year we're about 9.8 million higher. 27 next year we're about 14.2, and then each year it continues to increase. So as expenses go up, revenues are kind of stabilized, and each year we're as expenditures are higher than revenues, it means we're spending more than we're bringing in, and we're spending down the cash balance that we have till it only goes so far until you hit the cliff, which in the next slides I'll show you where that is. So this graphic here shows with the renewal levy not included in revenues, it's included on the bottom. So as you can see, our revenues over expenditures, we're spending more than we're bringing in. So this year we're at 9.8 million. Next fiscal year we're at 14.2, and each year it continues to increase. Want to bring you down to where the circle is. So that is without the renewal levy. So the renewal levy first comes off the books in fiscal year 2028 if it's not renewed. So without that, we would have a positive $600,000 in fiscal year 2028. With it renewed, we would have a half-year collections of 4.7, and then in 2029, even with the renewal, we would have a $15 million deficit, and in 30, it continues to increase. The next slide, it's more cut off on presentation view, but this next slide shows it with the renewal levy, just with the revenues in general, just so it's easier to look at. So if the levy is renewed, that dollar value, we're still looking at a deficit in fiscal year 29. Although that may sound that it's a few years away, it is essentially 3 school years away, but as I'll get to in a later slide, as where ODE looks at fiscal status after we file these. So when we file these, the Ohio Department of Education does an examination of the forecast. For fiscal years 26 and 27, they look at the, let me go back a slide. They look at this line, the unencumbered balance. So if you're positive in these 2 years, you're okay. And then in the third fiscal year, which in this case is 28, they look at after the renewal levies. So in August, when we file this in August, fiscal year 29 is going to be in that spot where fiscal year 28 is. So with that deficit in fiscal year 29, after we file in August, we should anticipate getting a letter from the Ohio Department of Education to submit a plan of how you're going to address this deficit. You have X number of days to do so, and then based on the plan, they'll make a determination of fiscal status. So kind of just want to gauge where, or kind of put some context to where that is. And overall, the picture hasn't changed since September. There might have been some numbers that changed in between based on the various factors, but overall, the bottom line, the picture is still the same. Hopefully, we can get some savings this year, but at the end of the day, $15 million is quite a bit to make up. So that's kind of where we're at. We're at looking at this year, percent of cash to expenditures. I know that was a hot topic during the state legislature. We'll finish this year with 38%. Next year, we'll finish about 2027. We'll finish about 22%. 25% is the 90-day mark. That's 3 months. We do have the cash balance policy that we established a few years ago, saying that we believe in maintaining at least a 90-day operating expenditures, 90-day cash balance throughout the life of the forecast. And then we had a disclosure also, if we exceeded 150 days throughout the life of the forecast, we would move money into an 070 capital projects fund to align with any strategic investments. And then the transfer must be approved by the board, so the cash falling below 90 days in any year of the rolling 5-year forecast. So where we're at with that is fiscal year 26, we'll finish with 149 cash days. In 2027 will be about $89 days. And then obviously you see the red in 29 and 2030. This is what I talked about, the examination with the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. So when we file, they'll look at these 2 years on line 10.01, and then in the third year they look with any renewal levies. But as I mentioned, once we file in August, that third year will be fiscal year '29. So as long as that deficit's there, we should anticipate a letter. And that kind of wraps it up. I do have some modeling at the end that if we want to talk about now or when we get to, I know Dr. Iba had a spot in there as well. So any questions overall? I know I kind of skipped through some things. I know it's a lot, so.
I know we've said before, but I just want to remind everybody that with our 2019 levy going away, we're living on 2007 money. And if the 2007 money goes away, I don't even know when we go
Right.
back before that. So
2002.
2002, thank you. Yeah, just to remind everybody. I don't know anybody that runs their household that way,
Right.
so I applaud you, George, for keeping us in the black as long as we have.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions or comments for George? Dr. Iva, do you want him to go through the levy modeling now, or do you want to do that when we get to your slides?
It's up to you.
Why don't we go ahead?
Okay. So I had these slides in from September, just kind of updated them. So whether it's levy modeling or cost reductions, the value represents the impact represents the same thing. Whether we add, in this case, I had $10 million, which was the value of the renewal levy that came off, rounded up a little bit for even dollars. So whether it's additional revenues or reductions coming off, the impact is the same. So it's kind of interchangeable. Rather than having multiple lines, I just had the one line that you can kind of get the gist of the impact. So at that time, if we talked about in the fall, we have our renewal levy, whether we renew it or package it a different way. If additional dollars would be passed in this November of 2026, we would start collecting on that in calendar year 2027, which it would be half of fiscal year 2027, then the full fiscal year in 28 and outward. So if it was a dollar value representing $10 million, that's where you see the 5 and the 10. So if that would be the case, we would still be deficit spending, but it would slow it down a little bit, and then that would get us through 2030. If we would wait an additional year and go on the ballot in November of 2027 with a new with new dollars, then we would start collecting half of it in the collection would start in calendar year 28, so half of fiscal year 28 and the full year in 29. So kind of see that impact there where 29 would become whole, but 30 it would still be a deficit, and that's with an additional $10 million, whether added or reduced. So the cumulative effect is kind of the earlier it starts, the better it is. So kind of wanted to show that. And Cameron, did you want me to pull up the?
We can just wait till you get through your report. That's fine.
Okay. So any questions on any of that?
Any questions for George? Comments?
All right. So the other items that I have, and I'll go quickly through those. We have the financial report for the month ended January 31st, 2026. I'm not going to go over it since we just did the forecast, but the one item I did want to bring to your awareness, the property tax advances. For February, in comparison to other February, so once we close February this year, so for January, we collected for advance was 1.4 million. Last year was 1.2 million, so about 200,000 greater. This year, this February, our advance was 2.8 million or 2.5 in the general fund. Last year was around 8 million. The year before was 16. The year before that was 16 million. So the county is attributing to the bills being sent out later. Hopefully, it's not an indication of collections. So we'll have an additional about close to 30 million that we're hoping is going to come in March. So depending on how that comes in could have an impact to the forecast. So I know I pointed that in the beginning, just wanted to point that out again. So when we close February, or actually when we close March, that's what we want to look at, is how the tax revenues came in. And I'll update you as when I get the forecast, or when I get the settlement as well. That usually comes in around the middle of March. All right, moving on to item 3. We had one change to a student activities account for the middle school for the Discoverers team, increasing about from 6712 to 7512, and that's due for increased activity for their incentive field trip at the end of the year. One team is going to take on coordinating it rather than splitting it up amongst several teams, so that's where the change was there. We have a new fund for 2026. We received the Ohio Attorney General's safety grant for fiscal year 26. It's a grant that Steve applies for every year that we get, and it was around $24,808.75. And then we also got an archery SEF grant of $1,406, and that's to replace some of the bows and strings on the archery equipment that Mr. Martinelli applied for. We have amended permanent appropriations. It's the changes just I mentioned above, and then also at the last board meeting, we had an amendment to the 07 contract within the 070 fund for the GPD, so it's amending that budget as well. And then we had, and this one's an action item, we had 2 invoice approvals from business services. They were, one was due to an emergency repair for Brewer Garrett for $3,697 to gain control, to fix the HVAC controls at the high school. And then the other one was for the Fortify security systems for Kinsner for $7,952. This was work that was already being done. As they were working on it, they found additional issues, and it was during the time Steve was out. They contacted Steve. Steve gave the approval, but with his absence, the requisition didn't get in before the invoice happening. So that's where that generated for. And just so you guys are aware, because we don't get many of these often, any after the fact purchase, so there's then and nows and after the facts. And those are, if there's an invoice before a purchase order happens, if it's under $3,000, it's a then and now, and I can just certify it. If it's over $3,000, it's called an after the fact, and it has to go to the board for approval. So that's why you're seeing these. So.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hafner, second by Mr. Micko. Any other questions or comments for George?
I think I'm the only one caught on, but it's Len, isn't it, Mr. Micko?
Oh, that's what I was like, I have to do a double check during Lanky's. Hearing no questions, can you take the roll?
Ms. Hafner?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes,
Mrs. Bissell?
motion passes.
All right, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Dr. Ryba?
All right, so we'll continue on with George's presentation of the forecast. And the first item is a discussion for the board to take a look at possible reductions that we may want to consider based on the fact that we are deficit spending. So we all know this, but as a reminder, when we deficit spend, there's 2 ways, opportunities that we have to address that. One is reduction of expenses, and then the other is putting new operating funds on there or some combination thereof to address the deficit spend. So just to remind what George just put in his forecast, this year what we're going to deficit spend, it's in the works, right? There's not a whole lot that's going to change that $9.8 million. It's going to be what happens with the budget and how much people spend and how different things come into place. So really what we're looking at is that revenues over expenditures for 27. So right now, if we just continue on the path that we're on, assuming that the renewal levy passes, we are projected to deficit spend $14.2 million next year. As George shared in his one levy simulation, if we have a levy that generates $10 million pass in November, in addition to the renewal levy, then that $14.2 million deficit spend becomes $9.2 million deficit spend. So again, this is a snowball effect, right? Every year that deficit spend becomes bigger, the revenue that you add to that slows it down. It does not completely eliminate it based on where we're at right now. And so we want to look at a combination of additional revenue through a levy as well as budget reductions. So whether you want to think 9.2 or the reality right now is 14.2, let's frame it as 14.2 as we go forward. So as we take a look at those reductions, and again, we're looking at reductions that would impact our FY27 budget. There's three options that are on the agenda for consideration, and these are just broad categories. The first one is to implement natural reductions. Natural reductions is what the board gave direction to implement for this fiscal year. Natural reductions look at, as George had in his forecast, hey, there's 4 people that are retiring that, we're not looking to replace their positions. That would be a part of it. As we take a look at elementary sections, throughout the summertime, we get a lot of enrollment. Let's say our class cap guidelines are 25 in K to 3. We may have a class go up to 27 or 28. Instead of adding a teacher, we would take those 2 to 3 students, and they would be transferred to another school, elementary school, to not extend that expense. Or the other option would be, hey, these class sizes are could be workable, but because of the funding we have, we're not going to make 3 sections. We're going to make 2 sections and have some students go elsewhere. The other part would be not adding new sections at the high school. So something you say to a high school is, hey, I'm making this up, but you have 100 classes that run throughout the school day. If we add all the classes up, you cannot go above 100. So however you want to make it work, we're not adding more teachers that add more sections. If you want to add a few more sections to art, that's fine, but you're taking a few sections away from somewhere else to even it out. The other part is limits on class sizes to offer them. So this is, again, a high school issue because electives at the middle school are not as plentiful and a little more structured. So this would be to say at the high school, Nicole, what was it? Was it 12, 10, 12? What do we use?
Yeah, 12 to 15.
12 to 15 in there. So again, we take a look at high school classes and say, hey, here's all the offerings. Kids sign up. If we don't get 12 kids to sign up for a class, we're not going to offer that class. Where we take a harder look are AP classes that follow a sequence, that, kids went through the whole sequence. We do take a tougher look at those, but that would help keep costs down. And then minor budget reductions where George every spring goes through people's budgets with them and take a look at saying, we haven't done across the board reductions, but for example, hey, everybody needs to reduce their budget by 10%. So figure out where that could be. So that's kind of option 1. Okay? Option 2 and 3 are variations of option 1. So they're the same thing. We would do the same thing as option 1, but plan number 2 says we would do that, but we would also set a manageable dollar amount target that we would want to hit. And so, for example, if we just take the natural reduction plan, we get what we get, right? We'll do all those things we say, and we'll calculate it and we'll know. But if we get to $700,000 in reductions, that's what it is, and that's where we stop because we're just doing the natural reductions and minor things. The next option is to do that, but to say, hey, no, we want you to reduce the budget, reduce expenses by $1 million, as an example. And so we would take a look at all of those natural reductions, and I'll use my example. It comes up to $700,000. Then George and I, in collaboration with our administrative team, would sit down and say, okay, we've got to come up with $300,000 more of cuts, reductions. Where's that going to come from? With the goal, as the ending of the sentence says, to have minimal, if any, impact on student supports, programs, or opportunities. Okay, so that means, we're not going to cut X. We're going to try to keep those things in place, but look for other reductions to get to that target figure. Any clarifying questions on option 2? Option 3 is that same option, but you're selecting more of an aggressive amount, right? So instead of that $1 million of reductions, you're going to pick a more aggressive amount, and just for our discussion purposes, a more aggressive amount would be anything above $1 million, right? 2, 3, anything above $1 million. The reason it's a more aggressive amount is in our work, you're not going to be able to do that without negatively impacting programs, supports, opportunities, because you are going to have to reduce people. George just said 84% of our budget comes from people, right? Salaries and benefits. You start to get into the $1 million plus reductions. You can't do that without, I'm not going to use examples because then people will use the examples, but you can't make those reductions without negatively impacting the work that we do and the work that our community expects us to provide for our kids. And that's done through the reduction of staff. So those are those 3 options that we have to discuss. I would suggest, Ms. Hausum, that the board does not need to set a dollar figure tonight, but give us direction between options 1, 2, and 3, where you're leaning towards, and then that can help us do the work that we need to do. If we are going to go with option 3, that time we are going to have a quicker decision, because when you talk about reducing staff, there are timelines, contractual timelines that we have to follow. Not only contractual timelines, but fair to our employees, that so that they're well aware. I'm going to make a comment and then I'll pause and turn it over to George. When you're talking about $14.2 million deficit spend, we all need to be realistic, is we are not going to cut our way out of this problem. And so, George, I'll turn it over to you if you want to give any additional color or context to what I just shared and the impact it has on our financial health moving forward.
And I think you kind of touched on it, and kind of from what I shared earlier, as Cameron said, it's 14.2. It's going to be hard to cut our way out of it based on, I don't believe we're overstaffed anywhere or additional class, so it's programs or other things, larger class sizes. So possibility of looking at also coming up with a strategy if there's anything we want to do in November as well with the renewal. And so it could be a combination of 2 things, reductions and increase in revenues. Even when we were looking at back in 2019, that levy was supposed to get us to 2027. So we were able to extend it a couple more years even with coming out. So that cliff was always going to be there around 2029. So even with that, we were looking at those additional dollars. So it's kind of where we thought we would be. We're kind of heading there. We were able to get some savings during the COVID years that was able to shift it down the road a little bit. And so we're kind of here where we're at. So yeah, as Dr. Iva said, it's a snowball effect, and each year is going to continue to snowball. And just like naturally with the snow, if we start making some changes now, it eases it in, or it could be more painful down the road. So those are kind of like the roadmap of the options that we have.
So, Ms. Hausum, I'll turn it back over to you. And the board has a choice to either, you could start with saying, hey, of options 1 through 3, here's one option that we don't want to talk about right now, or and then narrow that down and go from there. Or you can obviously start with, hey, what options do we desire and think are the best options for us? So I'll leave it to you to decide.
Thank you. Any thoughts or questions on option 1? Anyone want to entertain option 1?
Agree.
Great. So that's where we're starting.
It's a gimme.
I'm sorry. I should have started with option 2. Sorry. I think we're all in agreement that option 1. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So moving on to option 2. Questions, comments on option 2?
Well, I guess I'll start. If I might beg your courtesy, I want to start in reverse order and suggest that option 3 is too early to discuss. I think based on the forecast as it is today, option 3 very well may become necessary to discuss, but I don't think for this exercise we need to discuss this. To me, option 3 would be timed when we're making difficult choices and we don't have a whole lot of leeway. So I would suggest at this time we don't need to consider, or we shouldn't consider option 3. On the other hand, I would like to say, and we're all in agreement, option 1 is, it would not be prudent or good financial stewardship for us not to consider option 1 as our base. And I'd like to suggest, I'd like to see the dollar number of option 1, and then with an understanding of what option 1 is, we can revisit option 2 to see whether it makes sense to set a target or not. I'm leery of setting a dollar amount today of option 2 because I don't know where option 1 is, right? If option, just as a silly example, if option 1 comes in at $500,000 and we artificially set option 2 at $650,000, we're going to revisit option 2 anyways, right? So I do think we need to consider option 2, but Dr. Ryba, do we have the ability to start with a good estimate of option 1, or estimates would be more in George's world, perhaps, but give us some information on where you think option 1 would land, and then we can come back and take a look at option 2.
Right, yeah, so it would depend on what those attrition areas would be.
And I think by May we'll have I know we have retirements today that we're approving, but April, May, we should have a decent understanding of what our retirements are going to look like, and then it shouldn't. I don't want to put too much pressure on you, but you have Nick now, so you should have.
Yeah, but those retirements are what we know now already factored in to the forecast, so that was already included in those numbers.
So we should have by May-ish, we should be able to discuss where you think option 1 would come in, and then the board can have a healthy discussion and see what kind of targets option 2 would entail.
Yeah, and by May too, we would have already gone through the conversations with department heads and going through the budgets of next year, so we could look at the non-personnel lines, and then staffing would be in coordination with Jenny, so yeah, we would have an idea where we kind of landed with option 1.
Is May too late
That's what I
if we
wanted
want to
to ask.
if we have to make staffing
If
cuts?
option 3, going back to what Mr. Miko said, if option 3 is too early to discuss, then no, May's not too late, because it would be not replacing, we would not be riffing people.
Okay.
It would just be not replacing people that we have.
Okay, thank you.
And then, I don't know, just my opinion, option 3 would be more aligned when we get that notification from ODE and have to formally come up with a plan. Because that, never been through that, but from my understanding of it, is they're looking for a sustainability plan, so it would kind of fall in the guise of option 3 or whatever would that be, whether it be reductions or additional revenues at that point.
Did you say August is the timing on that letter?
Well, we would do the forecast in August, file it in August, so it would be sometime after that filing. So whether it be September or October, whenever they draw attention to it and send us a letter. So somewhere in that time frame.
When I was going through the information at home, I was thinking the same timeline, like, I was comfortable with option 2. I felt like option 3 was kind of drastic, but without putting numbers to it, it's kind of hard.
What I would ask, just for clarity, and this is kind of our first time George and I are going through this February forecast. So based on what he just said, that, the retirements we know about are already factored in the forecast. This is going to sound a little awkward, but I still want to get credit for those natural reductions because it's just the timing of his forecast versus how we would have done it last year. So even though they're baked into his forecast, just to make sure we're all on the same page, that we would take a look at those natural reductions that would go difference from FY '26 to FY '27. Everybody okay with that?
Makes sense.
Okay.
Makes sense.
I feel like a little kid.
That's a good point. Give me credit.
I want to get credit for that. Okay. But so what we'll do is, we'll work, the administrative team and I will take a look at the natural reductions, that option one. George will help us get the dollar figures to go with that, and then we'll come back to the board. Again, I know Mr. Miko suggested that, so I'm not saying that's what consensus of the board is, but that's what we could do, should that be your direction.
I have a request, given what you just said
Yeah.
in that context. Is it possible to also, before May, give us the list? Like, I don't have a full understanding of what option two, the places you might be able to take from
Sure.
for option two. So is it possible to make like a list of different categories or things that might get touched in that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we as a board have any sense of what we feel comfortable with the cut number? I mean, the run rate is the run rate. We sort of know all the variables, right? So do we have any sense at all of what number we would want to be coming up with? Dr. Robert, you said there was a cap, $1 million probably with option two. That was reasonable?
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't feel like a lot.
We have, from past years, we have a good draft of a reduction plan. So it will not take us the time, it's going to have to put a refresh to it versus starting from ground up. So we should be able to have something for the board to consider at our March regular meeting, or not consider, we'll have an update by our March regular meeting to be able to share with you. And then we could have dollar figures with that and to see.
Because you worked through those numbers in 2019, correct?
2019, then we did it again last year, about a year ago. We did that with the renewal levy options that were discussed. So we have it all mapped out as kind of where, kind of the cadence of where those reductions could be. So we could use the next month to refresh that and get it to the board.
Would you be comfortable with that, Eric? You'd
Yeah,
see
for
that?
sure. I think we should probably have more plans. Even have an option two staged and ready to go by summertime, knowing that it's loaded and knowing that a letter is probably coming. Like I don't know why we wouldn't wait. Why would we wait? We're taking away flexibility that we would have as we get nearer to these dates, and I think we should be serious and have a number of routes that we are ready to maneuver on and have thought through, so that we don't feel like we're panicking as these things are happening to us. I'd rather get in front of it.
Yeah, and having those plans ready to go is good process. The difference for us is we won't be able to enact the plan because of contractual rules, and so with employees, because a lot of those plans that get heftier reductions are going to reduce staff, and there's timelines that we have to meet for that. So yes, let's get the plans together so we have a long runway to discuss and prepare when we get the letter, but just for clarity for you.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
And then, like Mrs. Bissell was asking, we want to know where the cuts are coming from too. Like, I don't have any sense for that. Need to get real comfortable real quick on where those might be.
Yeah, I feel like without knowing where the cuts are coming from and, having an estimated figure as to what the natural reductions are, it's hard to sit up here right now and try and set any type of dollar amount without knowing what we're potentially looking at just with natural reductions. And then if we decide to go with option two, which to Mr. Miko's point, I think it is something that we need to keep in the back of our minds. We certainly don't want to, I'll use one of your little phrases, kick the can down the road. but at the same time, without the additional facts in front of us as to what could potentially be impacted, whether it's student services, whether it's programs at the high school, middle school, elementary schools, opportunities for our kids, without knowing all of those facts and figures, I have a hard time sitting up here and saying, I want to put X dollar amount on this.
Cameron, I'm not suggesting we're going to do this, but if we were going to do an option 3 for this coming fall, what is the hard deadline per the contracts?
Yeah, with our support staff, it's just, once you give notice, there's X amount of time before the position can be riffed for the teachers.
Yeah, for support staff, it's about mid-April. It's probably mid-March for the teachers, I believe. So,
But we can, if I'm not, again, not suggesting we're
Yeah,
doing
we
this,
can.
but if we come back and say, hey, we want to reduce positions X for OPSI in September, it's a 90-day period before that gets enacted, correct? It's not a hard deadline, I didn't think.
no, we just have to continue to, if you're reducing positions and they're working here, they'd have to work until that time frame.
So teachers, there's a hard deadline that it's a go, no-go, right? And then for support staff, it's just once you give them the notice, you have a waiting period before that notice gets enacted.
Right. Thank you.
I think the other thing I would throw in too is the next forecast filing is in August. Whatever we decide to do in November levy-wise, whether it's the renewal levy or if we want to add on to it, that filing deadline is early August, so it'll be before the forecast. So that's something we could revisit in May, and just something to start thinking about now as we start getting into the next few months and through the summer. Because again, think of the process that we just did for the bond levy. We have the 2 resolutions that need to go on, so it would need to be, at least the renewal, if we decide to go renewal, it would need to be filed by early August. So just kind of getting that out there too, to start thinking about that in conjunction with all this and how everything's going to play together, and that'll be part of the plan that we'll come up with.
Their new timeline isn't making it any easier, is it? Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. A couple other items under my section. Under item 2, it's the annual membership for the Ohio High School Athletic Association for the 26-27 school year. Under number 3, we have a donation agreement. This is an action item. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the donation agreement between the Strongsville City School District and Manta United Soccer Club be approved as listed in the exhibit.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Motion by Ms. Hafner, second by Mr. Micko. Any questions, comments?
So thanks to the Manta Soccer Club, they've been a longtime partner with us. The agreement is a certain dollar figure for 100 hours per year to use our middle school turf field. So their agreement ends here shortly, and this is an extension of that agreement.
And we thank them for their support.
Dr. Rabbit, how does reservations work then for the Strongsville Middle School field? And then you had commented before that having that open to the public was going to change just because it wasn't sustainable, the way that it was being taken advantage of and costing us a lot in repairs. So can you help me connect all that together, what that might look like?
Sure. So there's 2 processes. So with Manta, because they have a specific donation agreement, they work with our athletic department and let them know the times and dates that they want that, and we track that to make sure it stays within the 100 hours, and we reserve that time on the shared calendar that we have that says here's how the field's going to be used. Anybody else that wants to use the field, on our website, under our business services, there's a facilities rental form. And so it's a Google form that people complete that goes to Steve's office that reserves that. If you're a 501c3 or a community group that's not for profit, it's just reserving the time, and there's not a charge to that. If it's for-profit or you're selling tickets or things of that nature, then there's a per-hour fee that goes about that. And so, like, you know, we have, for our gym space, our Packatan Stadium, those are things that, because we're going to put up an 8-foot fence and have a more restricted access, those would be things where, whether it's the timed entry through the gate or whether it's through our custodial staff at the high school, that they would open and secure that property between uses. Does that help out?
Yeah. Is it first kind of amongst equals then, is for Manta's reservations?
Yeah. And there's in our policy, yes, but in our policy, there is an order. So school district gets it first, then school affiliate organizations get it second, then community groups get it third, and then for-profit, outside community groups, and then for-profit is last.
Thank you.
We haven't had many conflicts on times or dates, have we, Steve? Yeah.
George, can you take the roll?
No. Ready to take the roll?
Did we take it?
We did a
we take
motion and
it?
a second. We didn't take the roll, though.
We still have to take the roll.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Hafner?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
The last item is an addendum to the Right at School agreement. Aaron's been working with Right at School. We are going to try a summer camp over spring break, not summer camp, a camp over spring break. So families that need childcare over spring break, where are we having that, Aaron? Do you remember? Sarar. So we'll have it at one building, Sarar. They're going to put out an interest survey to see if there's enough students to offer it. The amendment to the contract is it was not specified that the revenue sharing that we have with Right at School would include these camps, so that's the correction. Any questions on my items? And then with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve for his item for tonight. And welcome back, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to be back. And welcome new board members. I look forward to many yes votes with you in the future. One item on the agenda under this section tonight is transportation for non-public students. These are students that are eligible for in lieu of transportation, the program provided by the state. The time and the distance required to provide transportation, the cost of providing transportation in terms of equipment, maintenance, personnel, and administration, and the additional service unavoidably disrupts current transportation schedule. So those students are there in that exhibit upon recommendation of the superintendent to provide the payment in lieu of cost for those families.
Thank you, Steve. Next up, Aaron's going to give the curriculum report for tonight.
There are 7 items tonight under curriculum. The first one, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that Strongsville City School District pays to purchase Edmentum courseware to be utilized in our credit recovery and Strongsville Academy programs, and that's at the secondary level, for 3 years, beginning July 21st, 2026. The total cost is $99,341.25, of which $33,113.75 will be payable each year for the next 3 years. Items 2 through 6 are out-of-state and/or overnight trips. Item 2 is for the high school girls varsity soccer team to travel to Gatlinburg, Tennessee to participate in the Smoky Mountain Cup, September 4th through 7th, 2026. Transportation via chartered bus paid by participating students and with proceeds from the Girls National Soccer Showcase and booster funds, lodging and meals paid by participating students, and also with proceeds from the Girls National Soccer Showcase and booster funds. Item 3 is for the high school boys varsity baseball team to travel to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, April 6th through 12th, 2026. Participate in the 2026 High School Ripken Experience, transportation by school bus, paid by the district, and commercial airlines paid by the students. Entry fee paid by Strongsville baseball team funds, lodging and meals paid by participating students and fundraisers. Item 4, Strongsville High School girls varsity and junior varsity softball teams Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that they travel to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, April 6th through 10th, 2026, participate in the high school Grand Strand tournament, transportation via school bus paid by district, and commercial airlines paid by students, entry fee paid by the softball booster funds, lodging and meals paid by participating students and fundraisers. Item 5 is the high school boys and girls track and field team to travel to Lexington, Kentucky, participate in the Tyson and Trinity Gay Invitational, April 3rd and 4th, 2026. Transportation via chartered bus paid by the participating students and booster funds, lodging and meals paid by participating students and booster funds. And last one of these, we have the high school boys varsity and junior varsity lacrosse teams. Permission be granted to them to travel to Cincinnati, Ohio, and Verona, Kentucky, April 10th through 12th, 2026, to participate in a lacrosse program or lacrosse competition. Transportation via chartered bus paid by the boys lacrosse program and the Strongsville Athletic Boosters. Lodging and meals paid by participating students and Strongsville Athletic Boosters. The last item is a student-teacher placement affiliation agreement, and this is with Western Governors University, as approved there in the exhibit. Questions on any of those items?
Thank you, Aaron.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize for not noticing this earlier, but the softball team is going to South Carolina, and we're sending a school bus.
I have no idea, but I thought for the equipment, maybe. That was my thought, but
The baseball says the same thing.
So my question is for the baseball and the softball.
I'm not sure. I would suggest that we approve it tonight. We can revise it.
Okay.
We'll get a message to them and see if they're getting a school bus once they get there to move them around or not. Oh. That's what it is, okay. Thank you, Melissa. Melissa,
Good job.
can you make the minutes reflect you had a dynamite drop-in with the facts there tonight? Well, that clarifies that, thank you. Andy?
Good evening, members of the board. I have one item for your consideration this evening. That is recommendation that the Board of Education enters into an agreement with Applewood Centers operating an educational institution known as Reserve School for the placement of a student who requires special education and related services for this school year starting January 22nd of 26, with tuition in the amount of $298.91 for each day the student is placed at the center. Any questions?
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
And finally, we bring up Ryan with the Human Resource Report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I have the following items in Human Resources for your consideration. Item 1, resignation, certificated. Item 2, resignation, non-certificated. Item 3, retirement, certificated. Item 4, retirement, non-certificated. Item 5, appointments, certificated. Item 6, appointments, non-certificated. Item 7, appointments, certificated substitutes. Item 8, appointments, non-certificated substitutes. Item 9, appointments, certificated athletic supplemental contracts. Item 10, appointment, non-certificated athletic supplemental contract. Item 11, appointments, game workers. Item 12, changes in status, non-certificated. Item 13, contract recommendations, non-certificated continuing contracts. Item 14, leaves of absence, administrative. Item 15, leaves of absence, leadership. Item 16, leaves of absence, certificated. Item 17, leaves of absence, non-certificated. And item 18, volunteers, chaperones. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. We have no items under technology, so that concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, report on Polaris Career Center. I will start. I want to start off by congratulating Polaris. They are proud to share that their Southwest Regional Business Advisory Council received the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce 2026 Business Education Leader Award for Excellent Business Advisory Councils. It's the second consecutive year they've received this. The council is comprised of more than 120 businesses, community, and education partners, and they earned the highest 4-star rating. So congratulations to their business advisors. It's a really busy time of year at Polaris. They are enrolling in all of their programs. Just want to highlight a couple of them, and you can always go to their website, go to their Facebook page, and they have a newsletter, The Compass, that you can always check out. But this Thursday from 6 to 7:30, they're welcoming their 10th graders, and the 10th graders are invited to attend a fashion design and merchandising information night. This is a new program for Polaris. They would like for the 10th graders to come and meet their instructor, Javon Terrence, and get all your questions answered about fashion design, merchandising, marketing, and much more. On Tuesday, March 10th from 6 to 7:30 p.m., they've invited all the 9th graders from the area, and they are offered an exclusive first look at the Polaris programs. You can tour the facility, participate in program demonstrations, enjoy light refreshments, and receive a free gift for attending. And the last one I wanted to touch on, this is a really popular one. Local 7th and 8th grade girls are invited to explore the world of construction during their second annual Build Her event at Polaris on Saturday, March 7th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's a hands-on construction workshop designed to introduce students to high-demand careers in the construction industry through fun, real-world lab experience. There's a $25 cost to register, and this event is sure to sell out. Again, there's a lot going on right now, so please check out their Facebook page or their website. And that concludes my report. Next up, report on legislation. Mrs. Bissell or Mr. Wall?
Okay, our legislative update for February. I'm going to be focusing on 4 developments in Columbus that have a direct kind of measurable impact on the Strongsville strategic and fiscal planning. While much of the state's focus has been on property tax reform, our treasurer's office has been hard at work at calculating the exact dollars and cents that these impacts of these bills will have on our district. First off, let's start with House Bill 309. It takes effect March 20th. This bill gives the County Budget Commission more power to reduce local levies if they decide a district's cash reserves are considered excessive. The impact on Strongsville. I just want to start off with kudos to the treasurer and his team. Because of his proactive work in 2023, Strongsville has already formed a formal, and he talked about this earlier, 150-day cash balance policy. So any funds that go beyond 150 days of operating costs are automatically moved into a dedicated capital funds project, or a fund. This transparency, honestly, is our best defense. It proves to the state and our county that our reserves aren't extra cash. They are disciplined, planned investments for our school buildings and long-term sustainability. The second one I want to talk about is House Bill 335. This law allows the state to cap the growth of inside millage. I know that's a confusing term, but it basically means the non-voted portion of our property taxes. They are capping it to the rate of inflation so that those things match each other. This is where the numbers get real. Looking at the 2027 tax update, inflation is trending at 8%, but our local home values are forecasted to grow by about 10%. Under this new law, we would not see the full benefit of that growth. George has already calculated this in our 5-year forecast. It represents the potential $200,000 annual loss in revenue. Now, historically, that growth has helped us keep up with the rising costs that we have without needing to go back to the community and ask for additional levies. So we have to be very mindful of that shrinking margin kind of going forward. Only 2 more. Third is a provision in the state budget bill that allows counties to create their own piggyback property taxes for senior citizens and homeowners. while Cuyahoga County has not opted into this for 2026, we are keeping a very close eye on it. Our neighbors in Lorraine and Medina counties already have. The catch with this one, why it matters, is unlike state credits, these local credits are not reimbursable to the school district. So if Cuyahoga County follows suit, it would be a $2 million annual hit to our operating budget with zero backfill from the state. So we'll be monitoring the county council's office for their July 1st deadline very closely. Number 4, finally, we have Senate Bill 326 is moving through the Senate and would make computer science a graduation requirement, and more importantly, mandate that every high school provide instruction in person. And that's kind of the big difference here. Strongsville is already a strong leader in technology, but the state's mandate for in-person teaching takes away a little bit of our local flexibility of offering online classes and the such. We want to make sure that the state provides this funding for teacher certification and pathways to support this, so it doesn't become another unfunded mandate that our local taxpayers would have to support. This concludes my portion of the legislative report, so I'm going to kick it over to Michelle.
Thanks, Eric. I just want to touch on 2 quick things. Both of them relate to Ed Choice or the voucher program. I'm sure you've heard about it before, and it's something I get asked about rather frequently when I'm out and about in the community. So neither of these directly impact us at the moment, but they are interesting to keep an eye on. So the first one is House Bill 671. That's sponsored by Representative J.B. Callender out of Concord Township, so not too far from here. And he's the only person sponsoring it. He doesn't have any support. The first version of this was that to withhold state foundation funding from any public school actively suing Ohio over the Ed Choice program, which is over half of the school districts in the state of Ohio. So this is affecting most of our neighbors around here have contributed to this lawsuit. So this could potentially affect them. We have not to this date contributed to it, so we are not at risk here. But the amended version now says that they'll withhold the amount being spent on the lawsuit rather than the whole amount, which is a dramatically different bill than the first version. But notable in that, what happens with this will give us a sense of what our leaders are thinking and feeling about public schools. I think we have a good sense already, but this is just going to be another tally in the box. And then similarly, this kind of attempts to rein in Ed Choice a little bit, which that hasn't happened much. House Bill 643 would limit Ed Choice expansion based on income. Anyone with a gross adjusted income over $500,000 would be ineligible. So it's still a rather high cap, but it's a cap that hasn't existed previously. And notably, this is a bipartisan bill. So right now, it was introduced in January 2026, and it's waiting in the Ohio House Education Committee to be discussed. But we'll keep our eye on legislation as it relates to Ed Choice, too, because it does impact our finances, whether we want it to or not. That concludes my report.
Thank you, guys. That was very informative. Board liaison reports. City Council.
Thank you, Laura. So City Council met February 2nd. They also met February 17th. So February 2nd meeting, the resolution that I brought up the last time in my report that was opposing the First Energy extended outage responses, that was suspended and adopted, so that did pass through council. They also had a nice presentation from our very own Mustangs for a Cure that came in. They gave a high-level overview of what their organization does. They also spoke about their very steep $150,000 goal that they're trying to reach. They also had all 20 team members there, plus their 3 spokespeople that, again, I was very proud to be an alumni of our schools and seeing our current high school students taking the lead as they were and putting on such a great presentation. I learned a lot from it and found it very informative. I would like to say that our council did as well. They asked some really great questions, and the kids even got a nice little picture at the end. And then to round up our February 2nd meeting, economic development, their 2026 priorities are including the Foltz Parkway extension. Going to our February 17th meeting, first and foremost, State of the City is March 10th. You can get your tickets through the Strongsville Chamber of Commerce. It is a luncheon that's provided by J. Bella's Bucci's and Mayor Persiak gives his State of the City speech. He gets up there and goes through all of the slides and usually does a very quick question and answer at the end. The biggest news of the day, though, at council was the pirate ship at the rec center. It is currently going to be replaced. However, the bids were currently rejected because they were over the 10% margin that was set out by economic development and city engineering. But have no fear, they are going out to rebid for the pirate ship, so we should hopefully have a newer pirate ship in the very near future. I played on the pirate ship myself. I'm sure those of us who had kids have taken our kids to the pirate ship, so it is a staple in Strongsville. And just to round it out, I want to give a big shout out to our city engineers, Lori Daly, Ken McCula, Economic Development Director Brent Painter, and of course Mayor Tom Persiak. They got a grant from the state for the Westwood Drive culvert replacement. They are currently out to bid with that with contractors. So there is no current ETA as to when it is going to start, although Mayor Persiak did note that he wants it to start sooner than later, and that would be affecting the Sidales Landing area. There's 2 culverts right on the side there that need to be repaired. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Next, Strongsville Education Foundation. I was able to attend their meeting on February 12th, right here in this building, and they had a guest speaker, Alyssa Hostler. Thank you. I'm trying to read my own handwriting. A math teacher from our high school. She was awarded a grant through the SCF, Strongsville Education Foundation, to go to a national math conference in Atlanta. This is her second year. She was able to go to Chicago last year. Just some notes that I wrote down that caught my attention. She was talking about new calculators, the Desmos calculator, graphing calculator, a NumWorks calculator. And these weren't like physical calculators they were holding in their hands, like they're all on, it's all virtual for the kids. And it was interesting how they're working these into testing that our kids are doing. So I thought that was really, really interesting. We do a lot of PD here in Strongsville, but some of these teachers, they don't have anybody to collaborate with if we only have one section. I think it's statistics maybe that so Alyssa was able to take a coworker with her, and she said she was like a kid on Christmas morning, like being able to collaborate with other statistic teachers from across the country. So they both learned a lot, and there was one, oh shoot, I just lost it. There was one quote that she put up on the screen that it spoke to me. If I can find it here really quick, I took a picture. There it is. It said, by making the smallest changes in our teacher moves, we could change an entire student experience. If a student with math trauma is allowed a space where they don't feel inadequate, we are changing their whole trajectory. I thought that was really powerful. So I was really glad I was able to hear Mrs. Hostler speak. Katie Drake was also at the meeting from Council PTA. She's our Council PTA president. And it was nice to see that the 2 groups are planning on collaborating with their grants and how that they can take the dollars that they all fundraise really hard for and make them really work in our district. Let's see, they awarded 24 scholarships last year, so they're gearing up for Senior Salute this year, and that will be on Monday, May 11th. And the other big thing I took away was Casino Night, which is normally held at the Rec Center, will move to the Encore Event Center in the fall. And that concludes my report. Next, Strongsville PTA Council.
Yes, I was able to attend a good part of the meeting on February 5th. That's also in this room, 9:30 a.m. In case anyone wants to join us, it's usually the first Thursday of the month. There, of course, are lots of things going on. PTA Council held its first Monsters game, so we had students from whatever school they want to do February 3rd, and the school that sold the most tickets for that got to have students ride the Zamboni, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So Chapman was the winner of that, so they had 2 of their students that were able to ride the Zamboni. So congratulations to them. A couple of updates from DARE. There'll be some dances coming up in April, so you can be on the lookout for that. There's also the ice skating night. I know this is very popular, so it will be April 2nd and from 5 to 8, and they're collecting food bank for peanut butter and jelly for the food bank for that event. So those tickets will be available probably in March. And then the conversation, there was no guest speaker this time, but there was a conversation that Dr. Riva led about grants. It's a common topic here. We approve them all the time, and almost every organization does some of them. And so the conversation kind of centered around, making sure the PTA has a clear goal in mind for what they want to use their grant money for, and where's the crossover or the line between where does PTA end and the school district's responsibilities start. So I wouldn't say everything's ironed out yet, but it was a good beginning to the conversation and setting some clear guidelines for PTA to continue doing their good work and finding the things that they really want to hone in on. Let's see, the only other thing, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Riba, but there is that upcoming parent feedback event.
Correct?
It says it is March 9th at 6 p.m., and the topic would be bullying and behavior, is that correct?
Yeah, so we're going to be sending out an update. We had a planning meeting last week. It's going to be here at in this room at 6 p.m. And one of the most prevalent pieces of feedback we received when we engaged in our last strategic planning feedback was student behavior and bullying. And so we're a couple years into our strategic plan. Andy and Mike Griffin, the principal from Muraski, will be there to help support as they're leading that work across the district. So it's a good opportunity to get up to speed with all the work the district has been doing, and a midpoint check to see what's still on the minds of parents and their experiences, so we can help incorporate that into other work as we move forward. So should be a great low-stress event to just come participate however you want, to listen, to experience, to provide some feedback, small group. It should be a nice evening. And there's an RSVP that's been put out by principals and in my newsletters.
Thank you. The only other thing I would note is that we finally had our executive function seminar last week. It was rescheduled because of all of our snow days, so I'm really curious to hear next month about how that was. I know some people who attended that, and there's good information always, and Council PTA is supportive of these types of events. So that concludes my report for this month.
Thank you. Next, OSBA Student Achievement. Michelle and I and Megan, we've all been collaborating a little bit, taking bits and pieces of it, and we are working on it. We weren't quite ready for tonight, but I'm hopeful with everybody's blessing that we can maybe do 2 in March, both meetings, to play a little catch-up.
That's a great idea.
So we will, hopefully we will have 2 different groups here next month. That concludes that report. Southwest General Hospital. You want to go ahead? We have not had a meeting. Normally that group meets in April, so we should have a report coming up in the spring. Board committee reports. Finance Committee. Magna Rich.
Our next meeting is to be announced, and once George tells us when it is, we'll announce it.
We just had a meeting earlier this month, February 3rd. Seems like a long time ago, but it was still this month. We had our municipal advisor and our bond underwriter from Stiefel, and then the municipal advisor from Sedenia was there, kind of explaining the bond process. If the bond were to pass in May, what our timeline is and our next steps are for bond issuance in August. So it was a good conversation with the committee, kind of going over the process and also talking through some current events that are happening with if the bond is approved and the impact if this abolished property tax goes through, what the impact is. So kind of talk through those scenarios as well. So it's a good conversation.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, the Facilities Committee. Policy Committee, Michelle and Eric.
That meeting is to be determined. It should be coming up here shortly. It's usually in the spring.
Yeah, I have a meeting with our consultant, I think maybe next week, and so sometime in the next month.
Great, thank you. Facilities Committee. Says here we have a meeting tomorrow night at 6 p.m. here in the admin building.
Mhm.
There's also an elementary facilities committee meeting?
Yeah, it's going to be right before that, a short, quick meeting. Yeah.
All right. That's why I'm a little, okay. Business Advisory Council Committee, Megan and Eric.
Thank you. On February 6th, bright and early, starting at 7:30 a.m., we had our Business Advisory Committee. We had 4 separate stations set up for high school juniors to work their way through. We had resume reviews, we had mock interviews, industry research, and then a question and answer session. I was lucky enough to be on resume reviews. I got to read through quite a few very good resumes, give some good tips and feedback. I also learned something new from one of our high school students. I did not know that the high school had a bird watching club. So I learned that based on the special skills section of one of the resumes. We did not have a bird watching club when I was at the high school, so I feel a little left out, Dr. Ryba, just throwing that out there. But it was a great experience. It was great to sit and connect with the kids and be able to answer any questions that they had regarding careers or regarding their resumes or just next steps in life, and just be able to provide some insight to them. And then I'll turn it over to Eric for his piece.
Yeah, I was part of a group that did industry research and teaching these 23 students how to really take control of Google and search engines to learn about companies, peel back some of what's hidden on their websites. We gave out some tips on that. And then also make use of artificial intelligence to go deeper on these particular organizations, and then also use it for challenge and response and helping them think through how they would be researching or what those questions might be that they have about those those companies. This was really cool experience, and I like that it was direct mentorship of our business community with these particular students. It really shows that we can close the gap between education and career readiness, and this is one of those things that we're doing. So it was a wonderful thing to be a part of.
Thank you. That is all of our board committee reports. Next on the agenda is the adoption of consent calendar. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of consent calendar at this point of the agenda means that all items appearing in this agenda denoted as type action consent are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board or the superintendent requests that such items be removed from the consent calendar and voted upon separately. Do we have any others? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Motion by Ms. Hefner, second by Mr. Micco. George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Hafner?
Yes.
Mr. Micco?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Motion carries. Back over to Dr. Ryba for timely information.
Thank you, Ms. Hausum. As George is putting the slides up, just to share, each week I'm able to get into the buildings and spend a little time and go into classrooms and engage with people. And it's just wonderful to not only keep connected with the building and the kids, but also see what's happening in our classrooms. And I do have to share, like, that's one of the things that I get to see on a weekly basis that most other people don't get to see unless you're in our schools, is the awesome work that's happening in each of our classrooms. So, Dan puts these slides together for me each month to share. And it's always a little, some of the stuff I know, some of the stuff I don't, but it's exciting to see the examples of learning that are happening in our classrooms. And not only proud of the work that we're doing, but a little jealous that I didn't get to experience maybe an education quite like this when I was younger. But we're going to start out at the elementary level, and we've talked a lot about CKLA and what it's doing to improve students' reading and writing skills. But I think what has been, I would say maybe a little surprising, is how teachers have taken the science and social studies units that they've done and bring it to life through extension activities and experiences. So in Kinsner, in first grade, they were doing a unit on planets. And so what they did is they gave the students to create their own planets. I don't know about you, but I had to work with my kids on a solar system model and stuff, and it was great. But, kids had the opportunity to I didn't sell that. I don't feel like I sold it. That was that great. But But you know, the idea of taking this idea of studying planets and kids being able to create a planet that commemorates their personality, their interests, their hobbies, and to do that in a fun way of connecting that with their parents or family members to create this, not only extended the learning that they did in CKLA, put some innovation and creativity to it, but they, as a first grader, they got to go up in front of the class and present what they learned and what they were doing, and share a little bit of a piece of them with their fellow classmates. So just a great example of CKLA coming to life, not just on the page of reading stories throughout the unit or writing, but how teachers are engaging beyond that. So going on to the middle school, in 7th grade Seekers team, again, this is a great example of saying we have to teach in math about surface area, about prisms and those concepts. And yeah, we could learn that on a worksheet. But how do we create an experience for all of the students on the Seekers team where they had to use grid paper, take those concepts, sketch it out, create gingerbread houses that met the certain criteria, had to stay within a certain budget. Who doesn't like a little personal finance thrown into their math lesson? And then, you know, actually build it to make sure it all works. So again, these are solid day-to-day lessons that take what could be just rote memorization, an algorithm placement, and brings it to life for our kids. And so thanks for the Seekers thinking outside of the box and bringing this experience to our students. And then, you know, we have so many classes at the high school, sometimes I honestly lose track of what classes we have. So I remember last year at the Model Mustang Experience, I don't think, it wasn't this one, but we have a fashion design, fashion design. And so I saw models of, I shouldn't admit this, but I saw like there was a dummy, right? What do you go?
Yeah.
A mannequin.
mannequin.
A mannequin. I should stop.
clothing.
I should stop. It was a mannequin with a dress and different things, you know, different outfits on it. And I said, well, where do these kids make this? And they said, well, we have a fashion design class here at the high school, Dr. Iba. I said, awesome. It was awesome. It was awesome that we have. So Mrs. Mendici, she's the same teacher that teaches that. She teaches advanced interior design class. And so recently they've been studying about the evolution of housing styles and architecture and design. And they were engaged in deeper learning through research, historical analysis, applied design, and digital modeling. So as you could see in some of the bullet points there, they looked at research on architectural housing styles. They examined historical time periods in which it emerged, historical events, tech advancements, geography, climate, cultural influences that shape design. They identified multiple geographic regions where the style was prevalent, and they synthesized research into a professionally formatted visual presentation in Canva. So again, a very cool opportunity that is not really offered in many places for our students to engage in interior design, but also look at it in this class, in this example, through a historical lens. So I'm proud to share those highlights of what's going on around the district. And then as we wrap up with some updates, calendar updates that are happening soon. George, if you want to hit the next one. We've got parent-teacher conferences coming up on Wednesday. That's, again, school's in session. That's just for grades 6 to 12. Friday is one of those orange days on our calendar where part of the district is in, part of the district is out. So no school for K to 5, school for 6 to 12. It's a records and professional development day for our elementary staff. Friday, March 13th, that's our last PD day of the year, so there's no school for students. Staff will be in hard at work. And then, as we've shared in our updates, our Model Mustang Experience is going to be on the Tuesday, March 31st. We're moving to the middle school this year, 6 to 8 p.m. We're very excited to showcase all the great work happening. Jenny, any preview, any teaser you want to share?
Well, I was just going to email some of these teachers on the Seekers team because I don't think they're signed up, and I think what a wonderful example to share. I'm sure Eric has already signed up, but just wonderful examples of, we've been working really hard on making learning authentic and real world connections and knowing the why behind why we're learning something. We've also been working on getting our teachers to collaborate together. So, we had this example of CKLA in elementary and how science connects to literacy. Cameron mentioned how the math, went with their gingerbread houses and doing all of that. So I think you're going to see a lot of those kinds of showcases where you see teachers taking concepts and connecting it across disciplines. And when we do that, our hope is that our students remember what they learn long after us and can make those connections to the real world as to why they're learning something and how it's going to benefit them in the future. So that's really our focus. I know we're going to have some prizes available for those that attend, and we will be mailing out a postcard to every single community member inviting them to come to this event so they can see firsthand maybe how education is changing and evolving. And see all the great things that we are doing to support our students.
And also, please make sure to check out our new website, a web page on our website. So shout out to Dave Binkley, who spent a lot of time over the last couple months developing our facilities website that provides factual information, not only on our district facilities and bond plan, but past projects that we've done. So you can go to scmustangs.org at F4F for the Foundation for the Future plan. And just as I think a neat story, so, our Foundation for the Future plan details what's a part of our bond project. And we've coined it as we want to continue to build on our community's legacy. Mr. Micko was at a PTA Founders Day event earlier or last week, and there was a scrapbook that he was going through. And we talked about in our messaging that a lot of our elementary buildings were built in the 60s. So he found a scrapbook, was this 1961? You want to share what you found in there? No? Okay.
So it was Muraski PTA. It was their, I don't know if scrapbook's the right word. It was their record of their documents. Their secretary maintained it. And what was fascinating is in 1961 is when the school district was looking to build the new high school. To build the high school that is over on Lund Road, and in addition, a new elementary school. And I shared with Cameron and the rest of the board, the more things change, the more they're the same. And so the correspondence for the high school and the elementary school was very similar to the conversations and discussions we've had today. It was 1961, so instead of, talking about artificial intelligence and things like that, it made mention of the growing motel industry in Strongsville. It made mention of its proximity to Cleveland Hopkins Airport, things like that. So I remember when I found it, I borrowed it. I didn't steal it. I borrowed it. And I probably had a little insomnia, but I read it cover to cover. And it was amazing. The Kiwanis took out an advertisement and sent it to all the homeowners, detailing why the building a new high school was important to the community and important to Strongsville to maintain a growing community. And again, the language seems quaint or historical, but it's the same issues. It's the same concerns we have as taxpayers. It's the same concerns we have as families. It's the same concerns parents have for their children. Same concerns we all have for the future. And it talked about maintaining a community that we want for our children and investing in their future. And I gave a shout out to Megan the same way she tries to digest the numbers so that they're understandable. And she tries to figure out how much something would cost per month. In one of the advertisements, it said, if this bond passes, it will increase your property taxes by $1.50 a month. So the same kind of budgeting, the same kind of issues. But for me, the thing that was fascinating was it was another example of the community grappling with the issues, discussing the issues. There was opposition to the high school at the time, but talked about how we do that as a community. And in 1961, the bond eventually passed, and we built the new high school. So I thought it was fascinating and shared it with the team.
George, can you do me a favor?
Sure.
If you can click on that link of the SCS Mustangs, it should take you to the website. And so as you can see, what Dave has helped us bring to life is a one-stop shop for everything that you would want to know about our master facilities plan. And so, George, if you just scroll down slowly, you could see at the top we talk about what the current conditions. You can keep on going down, George. What the current conditions are that are there, some facts that are there, as well as numbers and facts related to the different parts of the project. And then it gets into the community impact, and if you want to take a look at the draft ballot language and the cost estimates that are below where George is at right now, you've got all that information there. And then we've got the start to some FAQs that are there as well. And if you scroll all the way back up to the top, there's another tab that says Master Facilities Information. If you click that tab, you've got all of the historical projects that we've done in recent past. So hopefully, for those that just want a high-level overview, you can do that. If you want to dig into the weeds, I don't know, somebody likes to dig into the weeds, you have that information available for you as well. That concludes my timely information.
Thank you. Next, Board of Education Other. Does anyone have any others? Go ahead. I just want to backtrack really fast to the Strongsville Education Foundation report. I forgot to give a shout out to Mr. Martinelli at the middle school. I know every year he applies for a $500 archery grant from an outside source, and I think this started probably 10 or 11 years ago when my children were at the middle school. And the fact that he was able to go and partner up with the Strongsville Education Foundation for a $1,400 grant just shows that his equipment is getting used. And I've never heard a negative comment about the archery portion of gym class at the middle school. I think the kids all look forward to it. It teaches them concentration, hand-eye coordination, and every kid can do it. So I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Martinelli for keeping that up, and the Strongsville Education Foundation for helping him to do that. That's all I had.
I just wanted to share two quick things. I might steal yours, Richard. Friday night, Strongsville hosted the OMEA music competition, the high school music competition we host every year. This year we did indeed hold it at the high school. Last year the power went out. We had to shuffle last minute and hold it at the middle school. So it was a nice and calm evening, and I'm very pleased to report that all four of our orchestras, the freshman string, symphony, and chamber strings, all received a 1, which is the highest ranking you can earn. And it was a really nice, it's free and open to the public. Anyone that wanted to come and see those contests could. There were other school districts here as well competing, but once again, Mr. Heyer and his students delivered, and I think they're all really proud of their work. I know they work really hard. So congratulations to them. And then the other one I wanted to share is it's my understanding it's our first chapter of HOSA. It's HOSA. Don't ask me for what it stands for because their website doesn't even say. But it is a future health professionals organization. It's based through the biomedical program here at the high school through Polaris. And so we have our first chapter, and they went to their first competition over the weekend. And this was a competition to qualify for the state competitions, which are coming up in April. And I believe almost all, if not all, of our students qualified. So for our first time chapter, kind of getting the flavor of things and trying to figure out where's the best place to compete, they were very successful, and I'm really thrilled to share, and I know my son was, that in one of the events, Strongsville went head-to-head with Solon, and we won. So something to be proud of in Strongsville, and I'm really excited about what this organization can do for our students and introduce them to other, future healthcare professionals in the state and beyond. And I'm excited to see how they do when they move on to the state level competition. So congratulations to the HOSA students as well.
Any others?
HOSA used to stand for Health Occupation Students of America,
I just wrote
but
down, what is HOSA?
similar to DECA, they've rebranded, and HOSA now just means Future Health Professionals.
Oh.
Say it again, what does it stand for?
Health Occupation Students of America.
And there had to be something. It just doesn't, they don't claim that anymore.
Yeah. similar to DECA, which used to be distributive education something, but it was for the distribution industry, but it, they're not just distribution anymore, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Thank you.
And artificial intelligence is our friend.
Yes. I was, going old school with the website.
Any other others? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. We do have need for executive session tonight for,
I think we need to go back to meeting notification.
oh, I'm trying to jump ahead. Meeting notifications. A regular Board of Education meeting, work session will be held Thursday, March 12th, 2026, 6:30 PM in the meeting room of the Admin Building, 18199 Cook Avenue. And we have a regular Board of Education meeting to be held Thursday, March 26th, 6:30 PM in the meeting room of the Admin Building, right here, 18199 Cook Avenue. We do have need for executive session.
To consider matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or regulations or state statutes.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Motion by Ms. Hafner, second by Mr. Micko. George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Hafner?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Motion passed.
We will enter into executive session at approximately 8:50. There is no expectation that the board will return to open session following executive session, and no further action will be taken, so I want to wish everybody a good night.